I'd like to introduce you to the TQS family. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, a little bit about you before we get into why we're really calling. How long have you been a quilt maker?
Oh, since the early 70s, about 1973.
Wow, you've been around the pool hall for a while, right?
Yes, I have.
And you live in Lincoln, Nebraska. Have you always lived there?
All my life.
And how would you categorize your quilt making if you could?
That's hard because I love all the aspects of making, from very traditional pieces to contemporary. I dye a lot of my own fabrics. I love embellishments, but I still go back to the traditional patterns too. I love it all.
Well, let's talk about that crane quilt.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about that. It's big.
It was commissioned for a restaurant in Lincoln, and they wanted it to be the focal point of the restaurant. So it's 6.5 feet tall by 26.5 feet wide, with actually life-size cranes that are hand appliqued and hand painted.
Wow,
In
it's beautiful.
Thank you very much.
So it never made it into any of the shows or anything because it was made specifically for this company.
Yes, it hung in the restaurant for 10 years, and when they retired, they donated it to the International Quilt Study Center, and it now hangs on permanent display on the campus of the University of Nebraska.
Well, speaking about that, that's where actually John discovered you. We were there actually interviewing Michael James because he's our TQS legend for 2013, and he was just amazed at your sewing machine collection. Tell us about that.
Well, I learned to sew on a little toy machine when I was 4 years old, and I started collecting them in the early 70s, about the time I started quilting, and I have about 350 toy machines in my collection.
Wow. Well, what do you decide to get? Anything that falls in front of you?
Well, when I first started collecting in the early 70s, I would very rarely see them. So I would maybe buy everything I could absolutely find, but that might only be 3 or 4 machines a year. Then the internet came along and eBay, and now I might buy 3 or 4 a week.
Exactly. Well, I understand you have a couple there that are kind of unique that you can tell us about.
Yes, I got some of my favorite ones here. This is a little Putin. This was made in Germany about the 1920s. This actually wasn't marketed as a toy sewing machine. It was the world's smallest sewing machine, and it was marketed to people who needed to make quick repairs on their clothes, or I couldn't imagine sewing drapes or anything on something like this.
Right.
But they're very cute little tiny machines. And
Yes.
this is a very rare one. This was made by the Mueller Company in the Germany. This one is from 1896 and was made for a special exhibition in Berlin. And I have one reference book that says that only 5 of these were made, but I don't know if that's been substantiated. But it's a beautiful machine.
How do you determine how much you're going to pay? Is there a range or is it all over the map like a quilt?
Well, a lot of it depends on how well it's been held up over the years, how complete it is. Does it have its original box and the clamp, maybe little scissors or a screwdriver with it?
Huh.
And condition is very important. If it's rusty, if it's complete, all of that comes into how much it would be worth.
Okay, and then you have another one, I understand?
Well, I have this little singer here because singers are the most common that you often find. So I like to collect singers. I first learned to sew on a singer sewing machine, but I like collecting the ones that come in the unusual colors like this bright blue. This one was made in Italy.
Was it originally that color or do you think it was
Was
painted that color?
It was originally this color, made about probably 1960s.
Wow, wow. Well, the other thing I want to toot your horn, you were the first recipient of the Jewel Pierce Patterson Award. When was that?
That was 1992. They paid for my way to Quilt Expo Europa in the Netherlands, my first trip to Europe.
Oh,
It was
wow.
amazing.
And are you on the circuit teaching and all that good stuff?
Yes, I travel all over the country, traveling, teaching, lecturing. I've written 2 books, and I really love to do that, meet quilters all over America. And I even traveled and taught in France.
Are your books in print?
No, they aren't in print, but you can find them on the used bookstores online.
Well, what are they?
Small Quilts Made Easy from That Patchwork Place and Terrific Triangles was published by Animus.
Very good, very good. Well, I want to thank you. It's during the holiday season and everybody's crazy busy, but there's 2 things I want to share with everybody. Number one, you're actually going to have a segment next year where we get to spy on your sewing studio, right?
Yes, it was very exciting to have your crew here. So going through my sewing studio, looking at more of my quilt collection and some of my quilts.
Nice. And we don't know when it's going to air yet, so you'll have to be patient, everyone. But also, when we were at the Quilt Study Museum, John got a lot of pictures of your machines. And would you give us permission to put together a show and tell for everyone?
Sure, that would be great.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much, and I can't wait to. I love seeing in people's studios. I think it's just the best. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do too. I did quite a bit of cleaning before they came. So
Is it still clean?
no.
I know this. Hey, do you have a website that you'd like to share?
I do. It's www.shellyburge.com. You can see more of my quilts and more of my toy sewing machine collection.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I hope that 2014 brings you wonderful things.
Thank you, Alex. Best wishes to you too.
Thank you.